In the previous video, I showed you how to take your reference photo or your drawing and transfer it to your canvas so you can paint it. In this video, we go from the drawing to the finished painting. Hey everybody, I'm Ken Brant and I'm an artist. So here we are with the finished painting, and in this video I speed it up so you're not going through however many hours it took me to get to this point, and you can sit back and enjoy the process. And I will be explaining how I came up with the various colors and the techniques that I used to create this finished painting. So as always, if you like this video and if you are not a subscriber, please subscribe. Please give it a thumbs up. I also do coaching by phone, so if you are an inspiring artist, or even if you are intermediate or advanced and you want to take your painting to the next level, give me a call. That information is at the end of the video, and be sure to check out my website at www.kennethbrant.com. and as always, I'll see you on the next one.
So I started this painting much like I do on a lot of other paintings. I toned the canvas first, and what that does is it does more than just one thing. It gives me a surface to work off of that's not white, and that always helps for when I start initially doing the painting on the canvas. And in fact, this isn't canvas, this is really a board, canvas board if you will. What it does is the paint underneath, it kind of gives it a slightly darker value than the white of the canvas does. And if I don't get paint on every single crevice within the canvas, you don't have these glaring white spots poking through the different colors of paint at you. That can be, I don't know, slightly annoying. I don't think it is, but some people have commented that when they can see things like that, that it distracts, takes away from the actual painting itself. So by toning the canvas, you avoid that whole situation. And number two, it seals in the drawing that I put on the canvas, and so that way when I'm painting over the drawing, if I lose my perspective, because the lines will be gone when you put in your paint. If I lose the perspective of the drawing, I can scrape away the paint and reveal the drawing underneath. It won't have disappeared, and then I can go back over that and get the right perspective. So that's kind of the two main reasons why I toned the canvas. And so you can see here for the sky, I just went with that's ultramarine blue, and the darker blue that's in the sky is Prussian blue. So both have been lightened with the use of titanium white, and so I just kind of smeared in some white in there for some clouds. Just kind of not a special crazy effect, but it does add a little bit of interest to the sky. In the original reference photo that I took the drawing, made the drawing from, there was really no sky to speak of. It was just a plain, really super light blue. So this way there is a slight interest in there. And then for the ox, the color of the ox, the ox is primarily a reddish brown, so burnt sienna seemed to work really well for the base color for the ox. And so I mixed, used different mixtures of asphaltum and ivory black, and for the lighter areas I was mixing in yellow ochre into the burnt sienna to kind of lighten it up in areas. You got to be real careful with white, because just because it's a highlight doesn't necessarily mean that the lighter color has white in it. White tends to make things a little bit chalky, so I try to veer away from using white as little as possible just for that reason. I do use it in there. There are a couple places here and there where I find the contrast in the highlights. It really works well. But then what ends up happening is I just end up going over it with, I'll see something different and I'll change it up. I'm always changing the painting when I'm working on it. Adding colors here, because as I'm painting, the whole idea is not to copy the photo 100%. You want to add your own, twist to things. There's a reason why I liked the photo in the first place, and it was the ox really drew my attention. I thought it was a very cool looking, ox. So I said, well, I'd like to paint him, and so that's why I did this. But I don't want to just make it exactly the same as the photo. Otherwise, why? Then I would just use the photo and hang that up. But so I'm changing the background a little bit. I've added some interest to the sky. The greenery in the background is not the same color green that's in the photo. I'm kind of playing around with my greens on this. The primary green, the base green that I'm using in this painting, is Viridian green. I really find Viridian green to be a really good green to use. It just mixes well. Like if I want a lighter green, I'll just mix lemon yellow with it, and that really works well for highlights in the green area. And to darken it up, I would just use you can use some blue, ultramarine blue. The Prussian blue is a very dark blue. You can put that in there. A little touch of ivory black, a little touch of asphaltum. There's several different ways you can darken up the green, and every time you use a different color to darken it, you're going to have a different shade of green, and that's what you want when you are doing any kind of greenery in the background or in the foreground. A lot of people, greens are really tough. People have a really hard time with greens, and that's and the key is to use multiple shades of green, but always use at least one color green as your base. That way all of the different shades of green that you're using, they'll belong together. You'll have some sort of cohesiveness within your painting, so that's important. If you'll notice, for the grass, the lighter grass, that's just the Viridian green with the lemon yellow added to it. And then I got some yellow ochre mixed in with it in different spots to kind of give like a multiple layers of the grass. Because when you look at grass, it's not just one plane of one color. There's many different strips of colors that you'll see in the layers of grass as it progresses into the background. So I try to do that, and that's what I did here on this one. For the wood, believe it or not, the wood fence, I actually used the Viridian green and cadmium red, and I mixed those two together because they're contrasting, or they're opposite colors. So on the color wheel, green will be on one side and red will be right directly across from it. So you always want to use those contrasting colors for different shades of gray. But you don't achieve that gray just by mixing the green and the red. You have to add the titanium white to it, and it will turn into a gray. And I used that for the wood because the wood was old and it had grayed over time. So I thought that would be a really nice gray to use, and I really liked the way it looked. and because there's viridian green in it, it now has some cohesiveness with the green in the background. Even though it's not green, but because it's in there, it belongs with everything else. So here I was working on the straw, the hay that the ox was eating, and I was having a very difficult time with it. So this was my first attempt at the straw. I was like, there's some dark areas, and so I put in some yellow ochre, and then I was playing around with, how am I going to make it look like, I don't want to paint every single individual strand of hay. That would be just crazy. I want to give the impression of hay. So what was the best way to do that? So this was my first attempt at it. I used a mixture of white, yellow ochre, and some, I want to say there's some asphaltum in there to kind of brown it a little bit, but I wanted to use mostly a lighter color, and so that's this, and I wasn't happy with it. I'm like, it just looks, it just didn't lay on the ground right the way I was putting it in there. So that was my first attempt at it, and you'll see in a moment here, I'll actually just go back over that. I'll just put in a darker color over the top of that and try it again. I actually ended up doing it 3 times before I was somewhat satisfied with the result, and it looked like hay, and I was pleased. So that's kind of what was happening with the straw. And then I had an idea. In the original reference photo, the hay covers the feet of the ox, and believe it or not, if you do paintings and you always hide the feet, after you are long gone and cannot speak about why you did what you did in your painting, and you become famous, let's assume that does happen, you become famous, the curator at the museum will tell everybody, as they're doing the grand tour and looking at all your different paintings, he will tell them that this artist was no good at painting feet, so he always hid the feet behind something. And I didn't want to have someone in the future say that I was unable to paint ox hoofs, so I hid it all in the straw. So his feet aren't actually in the picture. I actually drew or painted in a foot on that one side, and I just left the straw away from that area. So I will not be accused of unable to paint ox hoofs in the future, because I did. And whether it looks like one or not, I don't know, but I did, and that's what happened. So here you can see is the second attempt at the straw. I went over it with another, I used some more asphaltum and browns, and I just tried to cover it all up and gave another attempt at it. And I figured if I put in some really dark areas and then put in the lighter areas over the top of it, kind of like try to draw in like, different little strands here and there. So you can see I used a brush. There's this old brush. It's got it's missing a whole bunch of different hairs. It's got a couple longer strands on it. It's great for doing, like when I'm doing weeds in the grass and that. This brush is perfect for that. So I was using that brush, and again, I was unhappy with the end result. Although I did like it better than the first attempt. So I tried it a third time, and lo and behold, I was happy with that. And then I had an idea, when I was looking at the ox, and I was like, he looks great, but I need to put some interest in there. And there were some areas that, for some reason, when I painted him, I painted him kind of thinner than he actually was, and so I needed to thicken him up a little bit, like that hump at the top there. I had to thicken that up, make it a little bit wider. And then I said, I'm going to put some blue in on the side of him that is not reflecting any light from the sky, around the near the backside and the belly area. So I've used some, I believe I used the ultramarine blue, and I lightened it up with just a touch of titanium white, and I was really pleased with that, the way that looked, that effect. It just looks great. You know, there is no blue in the photo, but man, it looks great in the painting. So, you know, I highly suggest when you're doing a painting and you're playing around with the colors and that, then you should experiment, you know, because if it doesn't work out, so what? You just go over it with, you know, you can go over it again. That's the beauty of oil painting. So the other things I wanted to key in on, the focal areas, the focal points. And the focal points of the ox obviously is going to be the eye. We as humans, we are trained, it's in our DNA since the beginning of time. You know, it's just an instinct that we have. We focus in on eyes of other people, the eyes of animals, because based on what we see within that animal's eyes will determine whether or not we need to run away or is it a friendly. So that is ingrained in us. So the eye is something we just automatically look at. We just, you know, it doesn't matter what else I do to this ox. The very first thing that somebody's going to look at when they see this painting is they're going to look at the ox's eye. So I needed to go in there and add a little bit of color to his eye, and I worked on the highlight a little bit. I made it a little bit larger than what it is at the moment, and then I wanted to have a second focal point area, and that was going to be like a spot on the horn, the one horn that's closest to the front. So I worked on those two areas for the focal area, and I really liked the way it came out. I'm quite pleased with it, and I hope you agree. If there's anything about this painting that you see that maybe I didn't explain it well enough, or if there's anything, make sure you leave it in the comment section below. I always answer all the comments, and so that's and here I am working on the eye. You can see the blue that I added on the side of the ox there. I just think it just what a special effect that created. That is why the painting is better than the photo, I think. Because just things like that, you can just play around with it, add things. It just looks cooler. And I was really pleased with that. The only thing I wasn't pleased with, obviously, is that straw. So I went back, I touched up the areas in the background a bit more, and I did some highlights on his nose there, put some accents in along his neckline, and just kind of made him a little bit more musculature, because he's a muscular animal. And you can see here's where I'm picking up that highlight on the eye, so it just kind of just draws you right in, and adds interest to the ox. Makes him look better. Put some, I put some more highlights on his nose area there, and so then I'm going to work on the straw area for the last and final time. And what I ended up doing is I ended up taking some linseed stand oil and mixing in my asphaltum, because it's a really nice rich brown, and I kind of glazed it over that straw, that's the second attempt at straw, and then I went over that with a very fine brush, and with some lemon yellow and white, and I put in the highlights over the darker areas, and then it kind of stood out more, and it really looked more like straw, and I was quite happy with that. And I think the ox in the painting was happy with it as well, because now it looks a little bit more appetizing. So, you know, if he was alive in the painting, I guess that would be, you know, an idea. So, and yeah, and here we are coming near the end of the painting itself. I was just finishing up on some details there, and just, you know, going to go over the wood where the straw had gone, you know, bled into it. And so I hope you enjoyed this painting. And like, again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Make sure you leave them in the comment section below. I'll get back to you. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. Make sure you hit the bell notification, and that way you'll always be updated whenever a new video comes out. And I try to put out at least one a week. And yeah, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I'll be working on some tonal landscapes, and you know, I'm kind of, my art seems to be heading in that direction. I'm kind of liking how it's going, so I'm going to continue with that, and I hope you enjoy watching that. And I enjoyed doing this painting, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you very much.